Hi, it's Chris Griffiths and welcome back to our second session of Class 1. We are now logged into the internet, and as you can see we are at the PFAR homepage, pfar.org. We strongly encourage you to use this as your homepage for three reasons. Number one, it's a great place to find information on what's happening in the association. Number two, it's a great place to find information on the MLS if you're looking for the rules or caravan information, all that good stuff. And number three, it's a great place to log into the MLS. It is actually possible that we're going to make you use this as your entry to the MLS, so I'd encourage you to get used to it. It's a great tool to use. So we're going to click on the MLS logon. Now you have a user ID. It's given to you when you join the board. It's yours as long as you're a member. It's not going to change, so learn to love it. And you also have two security questions that you set up. Now those questions, the answers are stored in what are called cookies. So it's possible that you won't see them too often. If you only ever use one computer, you might never see them again. But if you ever want to log in from a client's computer, for example, you will need those the answers to those questions. So just remember, what your high school mascot was, or what city you got married in. Whatever you choose is your security question. And lastly, we have your password. Now we ask you not to use password as your password. We'd like you to use an alphanumeric password. We do not want you to give it out. That's a very serious offense. And we do ask you to change it occasionally. We do want to keep our system secure. Apparently I was already logged on, so I'm just going to click continue. And we're now going to be at the home page, and we're going to spend a little time talking about the home page. The first thing you'll notice is that there is a menu bar across the top here, and most everything we do we're going to do from this menu bar, okay? But I will show you alternatives where they exist, and there are some sort of shortcuts that you can use. Notice at the left hand end of the menu bar there is this little house icon. This is actually very useful. No matter where you are in the MLS, you can very quickly go back to the home page just by clicking on that house icon. And we'll see once we actually get into the MLS that you will also have a sub-menu along here which has different options. We'll look at that in a minute. And occasionally you'll have another menu below that. So there are other places where options appear. And just a couple of things. If you're ever stuck for something to do, look at the top left. Usually you'll find the answer in the top left. And also remember that there is no autosave in the MLS. So when you change something, you need to save it. It's not automatically saved for you. Before we look at the main part of the home page down here, we're going to look at a couple of things over on the top right here. And the first is this one called speed. This is a speed search. Now this is what's called a toggle, and what that means is that it's either on or it is off. Right now I have it off. When I click it, you'll see this speed search appears down here. I click it again, it goes away. So it's very quick and easy to bring up. My advice when you're working in the MLS, just have it closed. Very easy to open. So we've opened it. Now notice at the left hand end we have this blue question mark, and this is offering to help you. In all sorts of different places in the MLS, you're going to see this blue question mark. And you'll see that in this case, it's offering to do all sorts of weird and wonderful searches. And I'm going to tell you to ignore that completely. The speed search is phenomenally good at two things. I wouldn't try and bother learning to do a complicated search in it. The first thing it's really good for is looking up a listing number. Well, why is that important? Essentially, no matter where your client goes surfing on the internet, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, wherever, they're almost certainly going to find the listing number. So it's not uncommon to have your client call you in the morning and say, hey, I found this listing, it's great, can you set up an appointment for me? Well, the listing number is a really easy way to find it. So let's put in a listing number, 2216-3716. Notice as soon as I do that, over here on the right, it tells me there is one listing found. Now you can put as many listing numbers in as you want. You put a comma, no space, just a comma, and then type the next listing number. So I'm going to put in 22163632, and you'll see it immediately tells me that there are two listings found. You have two choices here. If your cursor is still in the box, you can press enter on the keyboard, or you can come over here and with your mouse click the magnifying glass. Whichever you choose, it's going to bring you to the results. Now, the results here are shown in a one-line grid. We're going to talk more about the displays in a little while, but if yours look different, the reason almost certainly will be that you have something other than one-line grid up here in the top right. But here they are in the one-line grid, and notice that we have some basic information about each listing, and we also have the listing number blue and underlined. Now you probably already know that that's like the international symbol for a hyperlink. So we're going to click on that in just a second. Now before we do, notice that we now have this sub-menu that I told you about, and we also have some menu options down here in the box. So typically you're going to find 2 or 3 menu choices here. You've got the main menu across the top, that will be there always. You have this sub-menu options, and then we have a third menu down here. So that's kind of the way the system is set up. So let's go ahead and click on one of the listing numbers. It's a hyperlink, so when we click on it, it is going to take us directly to the listing. You'll notice that we've got all the key information, we've got the photos. Notice that the pictures is a hyperlink. So if we click on it, well, let's click on it. We'll actually get a viewer where we can go through and look at the pictures. Or we could even do a slideshow. This will do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 count, and it will show a slideshow of the pictures of the property. So very easy to go and look at the pictures. And of course, I mean, you can just click on the pictures here and just get a sort of, reasonable size here. If we scroll down below, you'll see we've got all sorts of other information. Since this is a sold property, we also have who the selling agent was as well as the listing agent. And this is the listing detail. Now at the top, because we're looking at 2 properties, we have these arrows. Now, with only 2 properties, there's no difference between the inner and the outer arrows. But if you had a big long list, the outer arrows would take you to the first or the last property. The inner arrows will take you to the next property. So it's very quick and easy to look up listing numbers. Now I said there were 2 things this was good for. The second thing is looking up an address. So let's put in an address, and let's put in 657 Foxwood. Now I very often get people say, I can't find this thing in the MLS. And almost always it's because they're overthinking it. So if you know that this is 657 East Foxwood Lane, for example, my advice, leave out the prefix and the suffix, just use the number and the street. You'll find that your searches work a lot better. I'll show you in a second, there is a drawback to that. But here, notice I put in 657 Foxwood, and here we've got 4 listings found. So I'm going to click on the magnifying glass, and we'll see that all of these listings are the same property. Here it is, Lucken Yard of Flintridge. Okay, and if we look at it, you'll see that we've got a history here going back to 1998. You can see it sold back here in 1998. It was listed again in 2011. It sold again in 2007. The point is that you're going to find anything that is in our history for that address. Locally, our history goes back about 16, 17 years. Across all of Southern California, it goes back a minimum of 10 years. So basically, assuming you put the address in correctly, if it has been listed in the MLS in the last 10 years in Southern California, you are going to find it. Okay, it doesn't have to be an active property. Any property, you will find it. Let's try a different address. Let's put in 333 Louise, L-O-U-I-S-E. Oh, I could type and I'd be in good shape, wouldn't I? There we go. Got 38 listings found. So let's click on the magnifying glass. Now the reason we have 38 listings found is that this is a condominium, and you can see that we've got a whole bunch of them going back all the way to 1997. Okay, long time ago. Notice, by the way, the areas here. This is the exact same property, but there are at least 3 different choices of areas here. This is one of the reasons why I tell people that areas aren't a good idea to search by, because too often the listing agent gets it wrong. Anyway, you'll notice that areas aren't my favorite thing. Notice we have 3 tabs across the top. So in the middle we have rental. Well, some of the units in this condo have been leased through the MLS. Great. And then you go, well, how the heck do we have residential income? Well, notice that we've been looking at 333 North Louise in Glendale. When we click on residential income, it turns out this is actually a similar street name. This is East Louise Street in Long Beach. So I told you to leave out the prefix and the suffix. Just make sure that you use common sense when you look at the results to make sure you're looking at what you want. Okay, now over to the right, there is another icon, a green plus sign. And any of you who have been down to Venice Beach recently will know that every other storefront has a green plus sign, and it is a marijuana dispensary. Well, you can't order marijuana here, I'm afraid. But this is a very useful tool. It basically allows you to have multiple versions of the MLS open. So let's pretend that I'm in the middle of a big complicated CMA. My client calls me and says, what about 123 Easy Street? I don't want to lose my work. All I do is click on the green plus sign. You'll see that it in my browser, I've just got a new tab. Some browsers, you'll get a new window. But here is a new tab with a new version of the MLS. I still have the old one I'm working in. A great tool if you sort of get sidetracked. Now, there is a downside. The MLS will kick you out if you don't do anything for an hour. And if you have multiple versions open, you will suddenly get a message saying you're about to get kicked out of the MLS. It won't actually kick you out of the one you're working in, but my advice, when you're finished doing whatever you're doing, just close that other version. Dead easy to reopen. You just click the green plus sign. Okay, so just keep it closed. And for the same reason, I would suggest that you close the speed search. You know, real estate is valuable. That's just as true on your desktop as it is out in the real world. Okay, let's look at the rest of the page. So we'll go back to the home page. Remember, we do that by clicking on the house icon. And the rest of the page here, you'll see, is broken up into these rectangles. Now, these rectangles are called modules, and you have a lot of control over these. The first module, this big one, is a message from MLS staff. We try not to overuse this. If you see a message here, we would really suggest that you read it. We're trying to convey something to you, okay? The next place you have control is up here at the top right. You see you have Customize Homepage up here at the top right. And when you open that, you can control which modules appear. So if you like to have a nice, neat, clean homepage, you can turn modules off. I'm just going to leave them the way they are, okay? Now, some of these modules are better than others, and by better I mean more useful than others. I'm going to take you down to one that I find really useful, and that is this 24-hour market watch. Now we're going to look at this and we're going to say, holy moly, 975 new listings. I mean, obviously you're not going to click on that and go through 975 new listings. Why do we have that? Well, we're looking at the whole of Southern California. Do we really care what was listed in, I don't know, Whittier last night or in Oxnard? I mean, you know, for most of us it's not something that's useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to customize this so that it does exactly what you want to do with it. And what we're going to do is we're going to come up in the menu bar, we're going to come to admin, and the first choice, your preferences. So admin, your preferences. When you open it, it's possible that it will open as a series of blue lines like this. If that is the case, just go up here at the top left to expand all, and you'll have different segments. Notice that at the left-hand side of each segment, there is this blue question mark offering to help you fill it in. Okay. The one we're going to do is this one here, 24-hour market watch. It's actually incredibly easy. What we're going to do is we're going to click our cursor in the box, and we're just going to start typing the areas we're interested in. So let's say that I have a client who's really excited about Encino. Notice as I start typing, it brings up only those choices that match the letters I've typed in. I'm going to select Encino. Notice it doesn't want me to type Encino. It wants the abbreviation, which in this case is ENC. As I said, don't try and learn these. Just type them in. Let's look up Pasadena. Notice it brings up a whole bunch of Pasadenas. Now you can't select multiple ones, so I'm going to select South Pasadena. Just type it in again, and now we'll select Southwest. And you can go through, and I'm going to put in La Crescenta. Again, don't bother trying to learn these. And I would strongly suggest that less is more. The fewer areas you have in here, the more likely you are to use it. So I would use it just for those areas that you're hot and heavy about right now. When you sell your client in Encino, take Encino out of the list. Okay. Now, as I said before, there is no autosave. So we're going to come up here to the top left. You must click save. When you do, you get a nice little message saying it's been saved. But if you don't do that, it's not going to automatically save what you did. Let's go back to the home page. And if we scroll down the page, you'll now see that these numbers are much, much smaller. And now, when you click on the number 5, for example, for new listings, it's going to show you the new listings. Now, notice it's going to show you everything. So if there were some lots and land, it would include that. If there were mobile units, it would include that. It's going to show you everything that has happened in the last 24 hours for that particular search that you created. And it's not pulling your leg when it says 24 hours, okay? It doesn't mean what happened yesterday. It's 24 hours back from right now. So if we go into this afternoon, the numbers will almost certainly be different. If you only use the MLS 2 or 3 times a week, frankly, you might as well not bother with this tool. But if you're going into the MLS, 6, 8, 10 times a day, this absolutely is the tool for you. It's a perfect way of staying on top of what you're looking for. Now notice, it is nowhere to be seen. Okay, this brings us to another good thing. If you watch my cursor, as I come down into that 24-hour market watch bar there, you see how it turns into the 4-arrow thingy? If I now press and hold my left mouse button, I can drag it where I want it to be on the page. And I would strongly suggest that you put the 24 hours market watch up here top right. It's a very useful tool. The weather, yeah, we live in Southern California, and most of the time the weather's, quite frankly, a little dull, but whatever. Anyway. Let's look at some of these other ones. Another very useful one is this single sign-on. Now, what is single sign-on? As we said, we are in a secure environment. We got here by putting in our user ID, maybe our 2 security questions, and then our password. And these websites recognize our security and say, okay, we'll allow you to go to our website without any additional passwords. So this is a great way of going to other places. Now, iTech Cloud CMA, I told you, is the last thing we'll cover in Class 2 this afternoon. Does way more than a CMA. It is a fabulous tool. Victor Valley Guest User, this is a brand new thing. This basically will allow you to go and use the MLS in Victor Valley, Victorville, Apple Valley, and what have you. Very soon we'll have Bakersfield joining us. This is kind of a wave of the future. They're not going to be part of our database, but if you're working with clients there, you can access it incredibly easily, and it does establish a broker relationship whereby you get paid a commission if you help them sell the property. So very, very important. Carrots Commercial. This one is going to be going away. We're going to be bringing the commercial listings back into our regular database. But right now, if you want to go into our commercial data, you need to go here. It is a different software program. There is a learning curve, but probably somewhere around the beginning of the year, that will go away and commercial will come back. The IMS, that's the system where you pay your dues and buy charity event tickets and that sort of thing. RPR and Find are 2 wonderful tools that I'll cover in Class 3. They're both from NAR, and they both have nationwide data. So fabulous tools, and we'll cover those in Class 3. And the last thing is Fannie Mae home path. If you've ever done any Fannie Mae REOs or short sales, this takes you directly into their website. Okay, now there are various other modules. This listing locator is also very useful. It does basically the same thing as a speed search. One thing that it does that the speed search doesn't do, well, at least not terribly easily, is look up a list price. So let's pretend that I went on Caravan and I saw a property at $596,000. Can't for the life of me remember the address. If I click this, it will search all properties at $596,000. Now the first thing you're going to say is, gosh darn it, not a single one of those is $596,000, and that's entirely true. Basically, these ones with a V are what are called value range listings. Okay, so if I go to one of these listings, this listing has 2 prices. The higher price is the list price. The lower price down here in the body is the value range price. And basically any search between these 2 numbers will return this property. It's a great way of getting additional exposure for a property. So that was the listing locator. There is one other down here that I would strongly suggest that you bring up where you can see it, and that is the agent tools. So I'm going to drag that and I'm going to put it right up here between the single sign-on and the listing locator. You might choose to drag the support center up. It gives you access to the videos and that sort of thing. Basically, the agent tools allows you to do things with 1 click that normally will take you 2 clicks. Okay, so very, very useful. It's a great tool to have there. All right, that's basically it for session 2. When we come back, we're going to talk about some basic personalization, and then we're going to get into searching the database. So, thank you.